are you worth $150,000? Is it fair for you to get this much?
I'm like, what do you mean, where do I sign? I haven't even looked at your house yet. They're like, no, this is through the insurance. Where do I sign?
That it's all dry. The State Farm sucks. Like, and I'm talking about like mood in the city.
You can't just go out and knock on a door and say, hey, for $1,000, I'll get you a roof.
They just rolling the dice and I'm like, we'll make money because 1.5 comes right now. And even if I break even, it'll be good.
When I did it, I didn't do it for this reason, but I feel like I did it to control. So the business is my business.
Why do you think that? Like, is it because we're lazy?
If you want to work with me, great. If you don't want to work with me, great. I mean, that's how I look at it, because if you're going to be a headache in the beginning, what are you going to be like in the end? I'm very excited to come up here and meet with Dimitri. I know him and I have had conversations years ago in the past talking about shingles back in the day, and just look forward to having more conversations with him here today. Awesome. I recognize that website.
You made it.
I did. It was so far. Oh, it's like 6 hours.
It's not that far.
I go to the Dells all the time too.
I see.
And you know,
so that's like halfway, 3 hours.
Yeah. And I mean, I started doing work up there years ago too. There was a storm. There was a storm up in Baraboo and Reedsburg. Where do you want me to go?
This is your website.
Yes.
I just want to ask a few questions. We'll start here.
Oh man, the website's still under construction. They got a lot of changes.
Every roofer says that. It's under construction.
Yeah.
So first of all, my first question is, how hard was it to schedule this?
With you?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like
few messages?
Yeah, a little bit.
So
harassing you on Facebook. And
if you guys, well, you don't have to harass me. Louis@roofinginsights.com. You go straight to my assistant. He'll get stuff done. Monday, Tuesday, we're filming. The doors for the podcast is always open, and we arrange it. Sorry about Facebook. I'm getting like 100 messages a day on the Facebook, so that's hard. But if you reach out to Louis@roofinginsights.com, he'll get a schedule. So now let's start here. Website under construction. No, actually, brother, this looks good. My question is, I had a question here. I ask everyone, this is just feedback for me. So first of all, payment options. What is this powered by, and how many finance deals do you have? Do you do more retail or finance?
So more retail. So right now, this is very generic.
Yeah.
It's not really based on anything. What we use a platform called Upgrade. And we had Mosaic. When Mosaic started doing their changes, trying to go away from contractors and solar, we got in with Upgrade. And there's a finance company that Roofle uses too, but we've been using Upgrade because they'll do pre-approvals and everything, where we can go into their site and just type in a name and address, and they'll give us up to 94% accuracy if they're pre-approved before we even walk in the door.
94 is pretty good. And since you mentioned Roofle, so this is a Roofle plugin, accurate aerial?
No, the roofer plugin is up at the top.
What is this then?
This is based on, okay, like I said, it's under construction like every other roofer does. This was a generic because our old website was really bad, so that we had someone else come in and put this up. And we are still kind of going back and forth with what changes we want to make. So we're just using
So does it work?
base. You're going to ask me the hard question. I'm going to say, I don't know. I haven't been running the website. So now that'll go to the back office. Now the Roofle
instant roof quote
is right there. So that's where you would plug in your address and you would get the Roofle quote or the estimate.
Why do you have two?
That's one of the features we're working on cleaning up. So the company we used, and again, I'm not the one working on the website, they had their own system and that they used. Now where we use, now I don't know if we'll get the quote because I don't have Minnesota as my service area.
We're not How often does that happen?
It shouldn't happen very often because I have all of Northwest Indiana covered. I have Chicagoland area, and I go all the way down to Peoria, Illinois. So
how many leads do you get from instant quotes? This is a big conversation in the roofing industry right now to offer quotes. So many roofers argue that it's a bad idea. What's your feedback on it?
So I like it in a couple instances because we've had a few Google reviews in the past where if we don't get these guys an estimate in 24 to 48 hours, they're going on Google, I called and they didn't give me an estimate quickly. I mean, we can just lead them to the website and they can get numbers quick so they can see kind of like ballpark
How many
numbers.
of them convert?
I don't have the metrics on that. We're working on that too right now. We've been having some issues with the plugin with AccuLinks. So we're not getting some of the data when it comes to reacting. So I get the emails from the roofle, so I send them off to our retail guy. I just haven't been tracking them as well as I should be.
What's your split between the retail and insurance?
Probably still 95-5.
Insurance is 95?
Yeah.
So
we hired a full-time retail guy. We brought on a commercial guy, so we're going to try to up that percentage. Now, we use a model that's more assembly line, where we have the guys knock the doors and we have someone go do the adjustment, then we have someone go pick the colors and do the upsells. I mean, we're probably, if you were to do the breakdown for numbers, I mean, I know last year like 78% of our business was from just the door-to-door knocking, but for our upsells, he's probably averaging about a 20% on the upsells, outside of just like if the insurance comes in at 10 grand, he's walking away with 12 grand.
Nice. All right, let's do a podcast. You guys good? We're running? Good? Thank you for making it. I want to talk about Chicago roofing market there. It's very interesting market. I actually started with the Chicago back in 2005. That was the first state where I lived. So very special, and 6 hours from here, from Minneapolis. But let's start with your journey. How many years you've been in the roofing industry? How did you get into this? And early beginnings.
Sure. So the first early story of my roofing career, I worked at a company called M. Walter Roofing, and it was a little over 30 years ago. I did a summer there while I was in college, did retail sales only. And
so you started at sales?
Yes, retail sales only.
Okay.
There wasn't really any storm work. So 30 years ago, that would have been, I'm trying to think, if I graduated high school in 91. So it was like 93. So storm work wasn't really a big deal.
I was in third grade.
Third grade,
For
yeah.
perspective.
Well, and this company had been around for 100 years at that point too. And I would go out and sell roofs, and they would have a good, better, best system. And the only thing that was different between the good, better, best was the shingles.
So what kind of shingles did you use? 3 tabs? What was good? What was bad?
They had like the T-lock shingles back then.
T-lock.
If you remember those.
I've seen those. I've seen those in Indiana market. Crazy shingle, like very weird shape. We recently were removing them with a company in Indiana, one of the company tours. I've never seen anything like that. So T-lock was the best, or?
That was their best, yes.
That was their best.
Because they would say that it wouldn't blow off in wind because it's all locked in together. So the only way it was coming off is if it all came off.
Why do you think they discontinued those?
I think that's part of the problem too, because I mean, between that and asbestos, those roofs lasted forever. I mean,
they were, so they were good.
And they were good. And how do you do a repair on those things? I don't know if you saw, like,
I did see it. It was crazy.
So like they tell you to go out and buy some mod bit and cut it and put it in there, like piece it in, like puzzle it into it. It's crazy how they.
So not repairable, but good looking. Not
I don't know if they look too good.
No,
I don't know. I don't like them.
It was weird. Okay, so not good looking, not repairable, but lasted well.
They seemed like they lasted forever. Now, again, that was predating hail and all that, so I don't know how that worked out with hail like later on. Because I didn't get into the storm industry till late 2008. Because I had swore off roofing at that point. Because when I was working for them, like I said, the good, better, best, the only difference was the shingles, and they would sell you on the roofing system. The roofing system,
what was good? 3 tab?
3 tab.
What was the prices? What's the average ticket?
I'm trying to think what it was. I mean, I would go out and run jobs, maybe $4,000 or $5,000. $4,000
or $5,000
for a decent sized roof. I mean,
in 93,
20, 30 square.
Wow.
It wasn't.
And today it's probably 40,000. For 25.
We're probably averaging about $650 a square.
Okay. And at that time, how much per square?
Oh, it was like $200.
Yeah. How much was materials? $40?
Now, I wasn't aware of that. They only showed me what my price that I could charge, and they would give me a little wiggle room on pricing. And
was it hard to sell? What was your closing rate?
No, it wasn't good because I didn't like the job. Like I said, the construction method was the same on every one. So it was kind of like, I just thought it was sleazy. I had a customer kind of go off on me about it one time, and I swore off roofing at that point. I'm like, I'm never doing this again. If this is a company that's been around for 100 years and this is how they sell roofs, because they would have you go in the attic, and you know, when you're in the attic, everywhere there's going to be some kind of staining on the decking and everything, and they would have you flash your flashlight in there, and any staining you saw, they would say, oh, look at this, your roof is bad, you know. So they would create that need that you needed a roof right away. So they would create this fear in the customer that, hey,
building urgency.
Yes, right away. So, I mean, you wouldn't even really go on the roof to do an inspection on the top of the roof. You would just go up there and do measurements. I mean, I had to learn how to hand measure. I mean, I was selling roofs back when you had a map book. We didn't even have GPSs then. So I would have to go up there hand measure.
We didn't have GPS in 2005. I remember I was printing the directions. Yeah.
Remember MapQuest?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, I had the map book where you had to flip through, and then if it went off the page.
I want to check audience for that. Comment below if you remember MapQuest, or if it's something completely new and you never ever used it.
I'm gonna guess it's very low that people have heard of MapQuest. Very low. So yeah, just going out there, hand measuring roofs, and then your real inspection was going in the attic and trying to create a need that they needed a new roof.
Attic.
Correct.
Not many companies go in the attic even today.
Correct.
Why do you think that? Like, is it because we're lazy? I mean, should the roofers go in the attic? Does your company now go in the attic?
It's hit or miss. I'm not going to lie to you and say all of our guys go in the attic. I mean, I do believe it's important, because if you're going to do an inspection, just looking at the top of the roof is only giving you half the story. The other half of the story is on the inside. But I'm not going to tell my guys to go inside either and flash a light and say, oh my God, look at, you got these nails coming through, and look at, there's a little bit of moisture.
So the training was to go in the attic just to build sense of urgency.
Correct.
Not to actually like do much stuff as far as
not at all. Just create a sense of urgency. And
okay.
The philosophy was you could always find something in every attic for why they needed a new roof.
Okay. Well, so, you can find it on top of the roof too.
Well, no one was worried about that back then.
I see.
Everyone was worried about.
But how do you show it to the homeowner? You show it like because did you have?
Oh, you'd bring them up in the attic with you.
Yeah,
you'd have to. There was, or you'd have the little digital cameras, but no one, you couldn't really see.
There were still like, I came to the United States 2004. The cameras were digital cameras were just coming up. It was brand new. So.
So yeah, you would bring them into the attic and show them around in the attic, and if you could create that sense of urgency that they needed a new roof, I mean, not saying you had them there, but you had them interested, and then you could go into a full-on proposal because you were hand measuring, so you were able to give them numbers right there at the table.
Pre-Eagle View too. Another thing, like people don't know how to measure the roof anymore. All this new generation, let's just buy $30, $40 report. So you hated it, you got out of it. What did you do after?
So I went, finished college. I was working the last job before I got back into the roofing industry. I was working at DeVry University and doing online admissions. Now, I was at the brick and mortar campus, but we had an online division too. So I was working in that end. And I just was kind of miserable working with my boss. I had a few friends who were doing the storm work, and I'd went out with a guy a couple of times during the summer just to see what it was like, going out and door knocking, the old school way of training, just go out and knock doors and figure it out. Like literally that's what they did. And I just went out with him for a couple of days, and I had a really good friend that was working for him for that year, and he made over $100,000 that year. And I knew that when I worked with him previous, if he could do this, I could do it. So one day I just got fed up with my boss and wrote a 2-week resignation letter and just handed it to her and started my journey back in the roofing industry.
All right. Fast forward, describe your roofing journey, describe the roofing market for the past 15 years.
So when I got into it, the storm industry, I thought this was just something that was going to maybe last, I don't know. Every year I would say, oh, there's another 2 or 3 years of this and it's going to go away. The insurance companies are going to stop paying and everything. And Illinois had it where you could be, and they still do have it, where you can be the public adjuster and the contractor.
What's your take on that? Like, do you support it? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is there a conflict of interest?
So my thoughts on this. I've made some people aggravated when I say this. I do believe that you should be able to do one of them proficiently before you try to do both. Mm-hmm. One of the problems we have in Illinois is you got people trying to be a roofer and a public adjuster, and they can't do either one of them well. I mean, seriously, like that. I mean, that's the whole point of being a public adjuster. You're supposed to represent the policyholder, and if you're not representing them right, you can't really call yourself a public adjuster. If you're a roofer and you don't even know how to install a roof, how are you installing the roof? And that's a big problem in Illinois. There's a lot of contractors who can't do either right, and they're trying to do both. I mean, I do believe a lot of what started that in Illinois, because I was in that same boat, was we wanted to get our name on that insurance check. And once I got my public adjuster license, and that was in 2014 or 2015, I saw that there was more to it than just your name on the check, that you had more leverage. And I really started digging down. I had Steve Patrick come out and do classes for my company. I mean, we really started digging down and learning how to be a real public adjuster, because I think it is a very useful tool for policyholders to use. Now, I don't believe you need it on every claim. I do believe that you can use it when you need it. I think it should be an escalation tool, but we still use it in Illinois and Indiana as much as possible.
All right, fast forward. Sorry for sidetrack.
Sure. No worries.
So 15 years, you thought it's going to go away 2-3 years, but how many storms did Illinois were getting those years? I know there's a lot of companies like Aspen Roofing, all the big guys, they built $100 million empires of a couple storms. And then essentially we're creating competition, and they'll have 100 sales reps, and next year there's 100 more companies.
Mm-hmm.
So how competitive was it 15 years ago?
So when I first got in 2008, it wasn't very competitive. Now, we had a different angle we approached it as. So the storm chasers would come in. So like companies like here in Minnesota, Storm Guard, Weather Guard would come down, and they would come and chase a storm and get the roofs and leave. Now, Illinois has, not anymore, but it had a lot of aluminum siding. So we would come in behind all the storm chasers, because the storm chasers didn't want to do the siding. We would come in and get all the siding on either pre-approved jobs or just the customers that they didn't want because they had aluminum siding. So we would come in, and that's really how I cut my teeth in the industry, was on the aluminum siding side of the business.
It's still
first.
one of the first videos on your YouTube channel right now. Aluminum siding is still a thing?
Oh yeah, in Northwest Indiana, there's still a high density of it. Illinois, it's going away slowly but surely. It's really where I cut my teeth. And it's easier to find damage on.
So if homeowner right now has aluminum siding, is it almost guaranteed that insurance should pay for replacement?
Nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah. But
now, it is going to be more than likely that you're going to find damage on it, because aluminum siding is an old product. If you've had 30 years of storms, you're going to find damage on it one way or the other. So I'm not saying...
But what about the date, finding the date when it happens?
So one of the things the insurance companies look for at that point is spatter. So basically when the hail hits the aluminum, all the oxidation, it'll hit it, it'll create this spatter pattern. And if that's on there and you can find hail hits that have the spatter marks in them, you can say that that's recent hail.
All right. So how much of the siding do you do?
I think we're like 60-40, 60% roofs, 40% siding.
Is there money in the siding?
Absolutely.
You like it?
Absolutely. Siding pays anywhere from, vinyl $800 to $100 to $1,000, aluminum $1,200-$1,400 a square. And then we also do upsells for Hardy. So
what's the best siding in your opinion? Hardy, LP?
I don't know enough about LP to make an educated opinion on it. I really do like the Hardy product though.
So I
think it's solid. Good. I haven't done enough research on LP. Now we just really got started with the Hardy last year, but everything that we do, like the product, we actually have a guy coming in Thursday to do a training. He is outside of the Hardy industry, and he's going to do a training on installing, pricing, everything like that. He does Hardy consulting. He's out of Indianapolis.
Love it. So fast forward, what else have changed from where you mentioned it, you thought it's going to last a couple of years and then it's going to get harder. Did it get harder? How hard did it get in the past 15 years with the insurance game?
I don't think it gets harder. I just think everything gets different. So it's just how you pivot for everything. So when I first got into the industry, it was all about, these storm chasers are out damaging properties. And then, I would come out, like I started running my company and everything. And then I decided to buy some leads, and then I would go out to the leads and I would knock on the door and say, hey, I'm here to do an inspection of your property. They're like, where do I sign? And I'm like, what do you mean, where do I sign? I haven't even looked at your house yet. They're like, no, this is through the insurance. Where do I sign? And I was just amazed that it was so hard to get a signature in the beginning because people were very skeptical of everything about the industry. Fast forward 7-8 years later, I start buying leads from companies and I'm going to doors and they're telling me, where do I sign? I'm like, I haven't even got on your roof. I haven't looked at anything yet. They're like, I want a free roof. Like it changed so much, and now with the insurance companies changing things, I mean,
but let me stop you right there. So that's the first step. Like, so storm chasers came in, they educated homeowners. Now homeowners is asking for it. But then you have markets like Texas where it's next level, where homeowners pretty much telling contractors how much they're willing to pay. That they also, there's another part to it that's bad. That's good that homeowners ready to sign. But what about deductibles when homeowners say, well, my last roof are 8 deductible, so now I'm not paying deductible because there's 5 other roofers willing to eat it. Do you see that's happening as well? When
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as big of an issue as it was, because that was a big thing before in the industry. I think most contractors, at least the good contractors that are out there, don't waive deductibles. So I don't think it's as much of an issue, but there's always ways that you can offset that with customers. I mean, it is fraud. I mean, is anyone going to enforce it? Probably not, but it is, against the law to do that. And then the big thing I always say is, if they're willing to do a shortcut and cut off $1,000 on your price right now, what shortcuts are you going to take when they're on your roof? Because if they're willing to do something like that up front, what are they going to do down the process? I mean, they're going to cut corners somewhere to save that $1,000. Would you rather just pay the full price and not have to worry about that? I mean, you can go online, look at our reviews, or would you rather save the $1,000 and worry about where they're cutting that $1,000? Because I can tell you, they're cutting it somewhere.
you mentioned creating damage, Chicago is a tricky market because it's not like Colorado. It's not like Texas. In Texas, Colorado, it hails every year, several times a year. Chicago, you'll have nice hail, but then for 2-3 years, they'll go dry. So what happens, you have all these companies who used to this easy money, low hanging fruit. And now I've heard so many stories, sales reps training other sales reps to create, because if you think about creating a damage, especially wind damage, I actually just watched a clip this morning from John Cena reacting to 2 guys on the roof being filmed like crisping the shingle. It's very hard, and you're a public adjuster too, like it's very hard to defend or argue the nature of, like, for example, crisping. Is it a wind damage or is it man-made? How much of a problem it is for Illinois market? And how often do you see handmade damage?
So I'm not in the field very often, so I can't speak on that as much. We don't promote it, so our guys don't do it. I mean, and you can still drive up and down streets and see houses with missing shingles. So it's not like it's, I don't know. I don't think you have to do it. There's enough business out there for everyone. So I mean and I do know our guys, they're not necessarily out knocking every door. They're cherry picking houses. They'll drive around, they'll see a house with missing shingles, or they'll drive around and see a house with aluminum siding, and they'll make sure that they hit that house. I mean, I know there was a reputation because there was a company that got caught in the early 2010s, that there was that stigma going on in Illinois, but I don't know that.
Is it the American?
It was Blue Rose.
Blue Rose.
Blue Rose. I think you were going to mention American Dream, but they're not around anymore. But I don't think they were. I don't think that was. Maybe they were, but
they
I
have
know.
Other issues. Attorney General came after them, I believe. American
Correct.
Dream. So what was their story?
As far as I know, they were just pushing. If, let's say I got an approval today, they would put your roof on tomorrow. In Illinois, you have that 3 days to cancel, and they were just kind of forcing customers to get on and keep going right away. So
they were
you don't
pretty
lose the
big.
business.
They were a big player.
They're still around. I think they're called AmeriPro now.
Yeah.
So they're still a big company. I mean, they changed the name. And I do know someone who worked there in their warranty department, and it sounds like they've changed a lot of their ways. So, I mean, obviously, if the Attorney General comes after you, got to do something. So it sounds like they've done a better job.
What was the other company? Blue
Rose. They're long gone.
So
they made, I think it was one of the news channels. I think it was NBC News. They got caught on the news making damage. Yeah.
And that's the thing, guys. I want to just address to everyone. I know people always say God is always watching, but there's a lot of cameras. There, if you're not afraid of God, be afraid of cameras at least, because it's just a matter of time. I don't know how many people know this, but even our Teslas, Tesla car, always recording surroundings, right? So if someone steals from you, you can actually go and chase Teslas and see if they have footage of whatever, right? Like there's, ring cameras, like, there's just cameras freaking everywhere. It's just a matter of time when you're gonna get caught if you do it. And I mean, you can get set up. I see more and more news channels setting up, and people like myself who doing journalism investigation. I can buy house right now, get like 10 estimates, and just record what's happening in that roof. And once you get caught, you are done, like for the rest of your life. Is it worth it?
No, it's not. I mean, and like you said, it's too easy to get caught. Like everyone's filming everything now. I mean, so why would you even risk it? And like I said, there's so much work out there to be had. I mean, is it worth it to get in trouble for $1,000, $2,000 payout commission to?
So you keep saying there's a lot of work, and I agree with you 100%. Abundance mentality. I talked to Lance Beckman last night, my partner, and he said, Dmitry, there's so much work. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. Like if you have entrepreneur mindset, true entrepreneur mindset, like you might be against the wall today because you don't have money by Friday to pay whatever, but you can go and create new product, new offer, start something brand new you've never done before, and have money by Friday. It's that easy. But here's what I do see. In Chicago, I see a lot of depression. I actually did a video 2 years ago with Robert Cipella, and we were talking about how depressed the market is, because I travel all over the country, and I used to love coming to Chicago. Guys are always there, like usually after the storms or like in a good season, everybody's positive. I remember Steve Patrick training there, like 200 people in a room. Everybody's busy. But then last few years, every time I come, everyone is depressed. Everyone has money problems, complaining about competition, complaining about how hard marketing is, that it's all dry, that State Farm sucks, and I'm talking about like mood in the city. Do you feel that vibe, or it's just regional, or you don't see it, or is it just a mentality?
I think the industry has gotten tougher because the public adjuster laws changed in Illinois over the last year too. It used to be, it was uncapped, the fees. Now they capped everyone at 10%, like most of the rest of the country. I think it's just, man, I think it's more of a mindset, because I don't want to say it was easy before, because I hate using easy and hard. It was, again, back to that whole, people can't roof right, they can't PA right, so they, don't do it. I think it's just, again, I don't want to use the word easy. I'm just trying to think of a way. It wasn't as difficult to go out there and get claims and turn business over. Has it gotten tougher? Absolutely. I think you have to be willing to pivot. And if you're not willing to pivot, you're going to get left behind. I mean, the storms have been kind of dry the last few years in Illinois, so a lot of companies have went out of business. I mean, if you don't learn how to pivot, you're not going to change. I mean, there's going to be some big pivots here coming in the next 24 or 48 months. I mean, that we're going to have to get ready for. And if we're not ready for them, we're all going to go out of business too. I mean, you got the private equity coming in, the insurance companies going to a lot of ACV policies. If you don't know you can't just go out and knock on a door and say, hey, for $1,000, I'll get you a roof. You need to know how to upsell that other half of the roof. And that's one of the things we stress, that we tell our customers up front, hey, I mean, the insurance may pay for this much, but hey, you got $10,000, you got a $20,000 roof, you only have to pay half price for your roof. Congratulations. So they understand that up from the beginning, you may not get a full roof up front, but hey, we got you $10,000 and you only have to pay $10,000 more. That's better than paying $20,000. Plus, with the way prices are going up, that $20,000 roof in maybe 6 months is going to be $24,000. I mean, there's talk of more price increases. It's just all a matter of how you pivot from everything. It's business. I mean, that's how business works.
I agree. Let's go fast forward to your current company. How did it all came about? What's your role at Romans Roofing? And what do you guys do now? Let's talk about your business.
Okay, so I am the president of Romans Roofing. I came in late June of last year. It was a smaller company. Took some of the ownership percentage to come over and everything. And I think their best year was $1.1 million before we got there. They opened in April of 2020. The goal was to build this out, to sell to private equity, partner up with another company, just build it out and build a brand that we can be proud of, where we take care of our people, plus we take care of our customers as well too. So came in with some sales guys, a couple other guys, Elijah Mum and Sean Harrison. built out a team quickly. So there was about $150,000 in sales through the first 5 months of the year. By the end of the year, we finished at almost $6 million in sales, about 4.6 million revenue.
Is it? Where did it come from?
Mostly Northwest Indiana.
Northwest.
Now, I would get referral leads because I've been in the industry for a while, networking and everything. So I would, I could always turn over anywhere from just not even doing anything at, $250,000 to $500,000 a year in sales. And typically I would just pass them off to guys that I work with.
6.5 million is impressive the first year. So 3 owners, 4 owners?
So 3 majority owners that own about a quarter, and then there's 3 other ones that have
What's your structure?
portions.
What's your roles? Talk to me about perfect partnership.
So we have myself that I more along the lines oversee the operations side, the financial side, the production side. I have the Indiana sales director. We have the Illinois sales director. We have the retail sales director. And those are the main roles. I mean, one of the partners, he's sort of silent. He is the original owner, Jeff Semko. The company is named after his son, Roman. So, but he's still involved in the scenes, but he's more silent. He doesn't have a defined role with the company. So he still helps out. I mean, like I said, he named the company after his son. The company wasn't doing so hot. So when we came in, there was some debt, and we've already paid off all the debt. We have cash in the bank. I mean, we've turned things around for this company, and I mean, we're just hoping to grow things and keep it going.
6.5, 40% is siding, 60% insurance claims, a little bit of retail. Sales director, is it just a sales manager?
No, because one of the sales directors does a lot of the marketing. Elijah, you see a lot of the marketing. He oversees that part of the business. Sean, who oversees Illinois, because Illinois didn't have a sales team last year. So Sean's building that out, and we do have a sales manager underneath him to do hiring and everything. And he helps on the operations side. He's very analytical and everything. So he helps with a lot of the CRM build out, creating our SOPs. So he helps on that. So we do have multiple roles, and I stay more on the production, the financial side, work with that team.
How important is all of that? Because, you probably lost half of our audience right now. A lot of roofers, the moment you start talking about SOPs and, management and building a business, we're losing audience because so many people, they go to the conferences, they listen to the podcasts. We all know what we need to be doing, like building a business. But at the end of the day, we just want to sell the job. We want to go home. We want to get out of that. And people ask where the leads are coming from. Like that's what a roofer wants to know. But looks like you guys are a different breed. You're not going on the roofs. You're actually building a business. And what else do you do different? Like what was the, turning point for you? When did you realize that business is not being on the roof measuring or selling a job?
Well, you can't scale, I don't believe, without building what I call an assembly line process. So we have the guys who knock the doors. We have the guys who go out and meet with the adjusters. We have the guys who go out and do the color meetings, do the closings, do the upsells. Everyone has a different function. It's just like Henry Ford, how he created the assembly line to scale and build vehicles. I mean, that's how you do it on the roofing side too. I don't knock anyone if they want to just go out and sell jobs and make money and everything. I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's probably I've heard there's anywhere from 100 to 200,000 licensed roofers in the country. I would guess 95% of them do it that way. It's the 5% who want to build and grow businesses that you have to find a structure to build it out, to scale. Because if you can't scale, you can't grow. I mean, and that's part of the American dream, is build a business, sell the business. And we want to build a business, so we need to be able to scale it. And when I had my previous company years back, I had started doing the assembly line process because I had always believed in that and gotten away from it. And then with Romans, bring that back in because, like I said, we want to scale this out and see where in 2 years, do evaluations, see what our company's worth, and see if we either want to partner up with some other companies or either let a private equity come in and acquire us.
When do you think you'll be ready for the private equity?
I'd like to do an evaluation at the end end of 2025. Well, I'm sorry, first quarter of 2026 after 2025 is over. And just
what's your goal for this year?
20 million.
20 million. You think you'll hit it?
It's going to be a challenge. I mean, we haven't really had much storms yet. I think we're at about 2.5 million as of yesterday. We're somewhere, I don't know the exact number, but it was 2.5 million.
Today is May 7, by the way.
And I mean,
it's still great. 2.5 million for just second, third year in a business.
And we carried over 2 million from last year that still needed to be built. But
Awesome.
at the end of the year, obviously something's going to happen again.
Yeah.
But now we're getting into storm season, and we've made a little bit of a pivot here too. And it looks like we're starting to get a higher buy rate, because the buy rate for the beginning of the year was not good.
So what's your take on the recent changes in the market? Talk to me about your take on 1099s and non-competes. Is it going to affect your business? How do you see it's affecting the roofing market in general?
Well, I think the 1099 thing with the subcontractors is going to be an issue, because the biggest thing is that I see what that is. How am I supposed to police what my subcontractors do? Because one of the rules is that 90% rule. If they get 90% of their income from you, they should be considered a W-2 employee. How am I supposed to police that? Am I supposed to, dig into their business, dig into their books, and see where their business is coming from? So I think that's, I don't know. I think with the new presidential election, that may change in January again. So we'll see how that goes. I don't see this working, but I mean, who am I? I think it's going to be very problematic. I know in Northwest Indiana, there is a push for whistleblowers to come out and out people for the 1099. So they're on the subcontractor end. But again, how do you want me to police what my roofers are doing? Like, I don't know who they work for from day to day. If I give them one roof a day and they tell me they have 3 crews, do I have to go through their financials and see if they really have 3 crews? I mean, I just think it's not practical to.
What about sales reps?
Our sales reps are W-2.
W-2? Was it a hard switch for you?
No, because I had switched that over probably like 2017, 2018. I started going W-2.
What advice would you give to someone who has no leverage over sales guys, who just 1099, never done anything else?
I mean,
why did you make the change?
If I'm going to look back on it, when I did it, I didn't do it for this reason, but I feel like I did it to control. So the business is my business. I don't know if I really looked at it that way to some degree, but with 1099s, you're really at the mercy of what they want to do. Now, I know there's huge companies out there, $100 million companies that have all 1099 sales guys. Again, at that point, I was trying to scale and build a business. Now, I don't know how private equity looks at a company. Like if I had 20 1099 sales guys, do I really have a business? But if I have 20 W-2 guys, I have SOPs, I have a process. That private equity looks at as, hey, this is a business. This is something that's sustainable. If Mike Armalis leaves, if Elijah Mum, Sean Harris, if the main guys leave, everything's already in place where it's a business. Whereas with the 1099s, I mean, is it really a business at that point? Or it's just like the roofing contractors, like the subcontractors. Is that really a business, or are they just, because they're just hiring guys daily or however they get their roofing guys to work?
Did you have non-compete agreements with the sales guys?
For Romans, no. I don't believe in non-competes.
No?
No. In Illinois, they don't really hold up anyway, but I don't believe in non-competes at all. I mean, why am I, like, one of the things that I'd always said was that my goal is to help someone else achieve their goals. I had guys specifically come in and work with me and say, hey, can I come in and work for you for a year? I'm going to go off on my own. And do you have a problem with it? And I would say no, because at the end of the day, I can go to bed at night and say, hey, I helped this guy achieve his goals. So why wouldn't I want to help people out like that? Because it's all going to come back to you in the end. I mean, if one of the things that's rampant in the industry is that you don't pay your sales guys. I've paid sales guys just to make them go away because I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I feel like you should, hold up to your word and do what you're supposed to do. I mean,
why do you think so many contractors don't pay? Is it because they can and it's just lack of integrity, or like greed, like keeping someone else, like straight out greed? Because it happens so often, it's unbelievable.
Man, I think every instance is a little bit different. I do think a lot of it is, if I don't think the guy earned his money, why am I going to pay him the money? I think that's how they justify it. So like if I have a sales rep and I want, and this has happened for us too, like we've had to do 80% of the job for them, like collecting checks or whatever part of the steps that they didn't do. you look at it as like, well, he didn't do his job, so why am I going to pay him? And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. That's maybe the way that they're justifying it to themselves. And it probably does come down to some level of greed and everything. But if you don't think the guy did his job, why are you going to pay them? And I think that's where some of this stems from. But at the end of the day, just pay them, because it's going to cause you more problems in the end. It's going to ruin your reputation. You're going to get sued. So why just pay them and be done with it? I mean, it's probably like, even if it's like $10,000, just throwing out a number, is it worth it for all those headaches?
I also see a lot of amnesia cases where in the beginning, business owner promise, everything. Like, if I come to you right now, like, or to a roofing business owner and say, hey, I can go and get this $1.5 million church or apartment complex, but I need 5% or 10% for that matter, wherever I want. So I want $150,000, but I'm going to bring you $1.5 million apartment complex insurance claim. Most business owners will jump on it like, oh yeah, sure, let's do it, right? And then at the end, it's like amnesia. It's like, oh, you're getting $150,000 on one project for just a couple handshakes. Like they start like from the back, not thinking what they got out of it, not thinking about that project and the value and the profit, thinking about, are you worth $150,000? Is it fair for you to get this much? Well, let's talk about what was fair before. Like it was fair before, but now it's not. And I see it so many times. Like that's just ridiculous. Renegotiate, like the renege, how Lee Haight calls it, that has to go away. We should not be renegotiating after the fact. Whatever you could be a man of your word, if you promised, if you shook hand on it, maybe you don't have a contract. Maybe it's off the table, whatever, but you promised me that. I got you the job, freaking pay up, and I'll give you another job.
It makes no sense to me. And that's funny that the way you said about the handshake. So I don't even sign contracts with any of my leads that come through for me. If you want to work with me, great. If you don't want to work with me, great. I mean, that's how I look at it, because if you're going to be a headache in the beginning, what are you going to be like in the end? I mean, but I don't get that amnesia thing. Like, and if you're saying like $1.5 million job, if you give the guy $150,000, 10%, as long as you build in your margins correctly and everything, that shouldn't matter. I mean, that's what it comes down to, though.
Yeah.
These guys, and I've seen this because I was guilty of this at some point in the beginning of my roofing career too. When the money's coming in, you don't care about your financials. Those financials, you need to know what things cost at all times and what your profit margins are, because you could just be turning all this money over. You're like, hey, I got all this money in the bank. And then all of a sudden I owe that guy $150,000, but I don't have the $150,000 because he brought me this job. We sold it for $1.5 million. It was 12% profit margin. So I didn't make any money on the job. So you need to know your numbers. I mean, it's
true.
I think it's an ignorance thing, because they didn't know their numbers when that guy brought them the job, and now they didn't make as much money as they thought they were going to make. They just saw the $1.5 million and, oh, look at this big job I'm going to get.
Is it ignorance or is it a desperation? I see a lot of guys taking jobs because they're desperate. So they already don't have money, and they think that $1.5 million project that makes no sense on paper, they just roll in the dice and like, we'll make money because 1.5 comes right now. And even if I break even, it'll be good. No, if you break even, you'll lose money because it's not going to save you. But do you see it? The guys take desperate jobs.
Oh, I'm sure there's some that do it that way too, because it gives you cash flow in the moment, and cash flow is king in this industry. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. If you have cash flow, you can keep things going, and then you can look at it as, hey, I got this $1.5 million job. Yeah, I'm not going to make a lot of money, but I'll use it to fund the next $1.5 million job or the $2 million job. And then if you don't know your numbers, you just took on a loser in that $1.5 million job. Now you took on another loser at the next job. So you just keep spiraling loser after loser after loser until you go out of business.
True. Speaking of cash flow and receiving money, 95% of your business comes from insurance money. So they are not good to collect fast. So you have to finance your jobs. How do you do it? What's your collection process? And do you say no to insurance claims? Like if you don't like insurance company or if you don't like what they offer, how often does that happen when you look at a claim and it makes no sense and you walk away from the job? Does it even happen to you?
If we have to walk away from a job, we're fine with that, because there's going to be times where, like I said, because everything's assembly line, we have specific people that go in and do the upsells. So if we need money for the upsell, he'll go in and do the upsell. If he can't get the upsell, we can't do the job. I mean, we can't just take jobs.
Give me an example of.
So let's say we have a job in, I don't know, I'll just use our home office, Hobart, and it comes in at $10,000. Now, through AccuLinks, I have all of our pricing, all our templates set up and everything. And let's say that job costs $12,000. The guy, Jim, who will go in and sit down with them, will tell them, hey, this is where we're at. This is what the insurance paid. This is what we need to get. If we can't get there, then we can't do the job. I mean, and he's great at closing jobs. So more times than not, he's going to get them to pay that extra amount of money. Or we'll do an upsell on a GAF Golden Pledge. I mean, that's where we make up a lot of, if the roof profit is a little bit short, he'll go in there and upsell warranties to offset some of that. I mean, I mean, the big thing I think with the way the market's going right now, if you can't go in there and have some value added product, or if you can't sell with the ACV, the other half of the roof, I mean, I think you're going to be dead in the water in the next 24 to 48 months. You have to be able to upsell, retail, or sell the difference on the jobs, because the last of the Mohicans, State Farm, is going to be the one that's going to go to ACV like everybody else is going. And once they go, everyone goes. So you're going to have to be able to make up that difference. And the guys who do retail now already know how to do that, because it's two different mindsets of selling. The retail guys go in there selling a roof. Yeah, it's 30, 35 points on a margin, but they know how to sell that $12, $13, $15,000 roof, whether it's that dollar amount or on financing. On the storm guys, they're going in there and selling a deductible a lot of times. And that's why we have it set up where they go out and knock the door. They tee it up for our guy, who is more of the retail guy, can come in there and do all the upsells.
Nice. I like your model. What's your biggest problem today, like in business? Like is it recruiting? Is it marketing? Like what problems are you trying to solve today as the president of the company?
I think our biggest problem would probably be internally, is that we have such a good system in place that it's growing so fast that we're going to have to make sure that we don't go too fast. Like,
slow down.
We're going to have to slow down a little bit, because 20 million, like, how many companies hit 20 million in a year? 1 or 2% in the country. I mean, 20 million's
it's a big number.
It's a big number. And think about it. When we came over and started working with Romans, their best year was 1.1 million. So to go from that, and then the first year to do almost 7 million.
Not to grow too fast.
We have to just make sure that we follow systems and processes, because with scaling, you have to stay in your systems and processes. And one of the things, and I always forget the name of the book, it's how important the systems and processes are, that everything comes down to, you don't have bad employees. You have systems that allow for more human error, because at the end of the day, everything comes down to human error. Now, the better systems and processes you have in place, the less chances of human error. And that's what we're trying to create. And we haven't even been at this for a year yet. So that's my biggest fear, is that we're going to go a little too fast, but it's like sometimes hard to stop it. The momentum's going. I mean, the energy level, our guys are great. And as long as we believe we're going to achieve it, we're going to achieve it. I think that's our biggest risk in all this. I mean, like I said, everything else, like, it's just how you pivot with the insurance companies. Like I said, we're adding a retail division so that we can be ahead of that. So when the insurance companies go away from paying for full replacement costs, we're already ready, where we can just come in and bam. I mean, think about this. Power Home Remodeling can come into a house and sell roofs for $1,000 a square, and storm chasers can't even go in there and upsell $400 or $500 for a roof. I mean, like, so it can be done. It's just a matter of how you think about it. And we just have to be ready, because it's coming to that point here. So we have to be ready for it.
Love it. Talk to me about insurance game. Everybody's complaining about State Farm, Allstate. How insurance companies changed, and what's the hardest in the past few years? Like, what did you do different not to complain about it and believe that insurance is not going to go away?
My thought process is always, it's about a numbers game. As long as you put enough in the pipeline, something will come out at the end. The insurance company, I mean, man, when I got in this in 2008, 2009, everyone hated Allstate already then, and you wanted to find State Farm. Now it's kind of turned around. I mean, Allstate actually pays out on claims, and State Farm is not paying out on claims. I mean, so it's just a matter of, and I just tell the guys, keep filling your pipeline, get out there, get as many deals as you can every week, because I mean, you're going to have files that drop off. I mean, if you file like a 90, 50, 50 rule, you know, sign 10 contracts, 9 of them will go through, half of them will get bought, and then half of them, you know, will go to work orders. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's really just about filling your pipeline, because, I mean, here, you could have the best carrier in the world. If you have a bad adjuster on a file, you know, you could have a Chubb or a USAA, and they may not pay just because of the adjuster. Or you may say Allstate's the worst company, and you may get the adjuster from Allstate that pays for it. I mean, so just fill your pipeline, get as many deals in there as you can, and it'll all work out in the end. I mean, it's all a numbers game. Once you know your numbers, your metrics, then you can break it down and get to the numbers you need to get to. I mean, that's one of the trainings I did, reverse engineer. If you want to make $150,000 and break it backwards and show how many doors you have to knock and everything, like everything's a numbers game. Like, not everyone's going to be the best salesperson. There's going to be salespeople that can close, you know, 50% of their deals, and there's going to be people that are going to have to knock 100 doors to get a deal. But if you follow your numbers, if you know what you need to do numbers wise, you can hit your numbers. You don't have to be the best salesperson. Everything always comes back to numbers.
Love it. As a public adjuster, what do you see can you give advice with dealing with adjusters?
I'm a retired public adjuster. I let my license lapse.
But you still have experience in
yes.
it. Like, give advice to the audience, to guys who are frustrated dealing with insurance companies with adjusters.
So my approach was always let them go there. It's their show. Let them do their thing. Let them
don't try to be in control.
Yeah, let them have control. And then once they start talking to you, I mean, just talk to them about sports, talking about anything else, fishing, whatever their interests are, and let them do what they do first. And then if you don't agree with them, then have some discussions back and forth with it. But you still have to keep it professional. The minute you start getting loud and
in their face,
yeah, it's not going to go well, because they're going to get on defense. You might as well just call it a day at that point and just kind of go back and forth with them. Now, on the public adjuster side too, one of the big things you want to get is you want to get them to extend coverage. So if they were going to extend coverage and you start yelling and screaming at them, they may just take that all back and then not extend any coverage at all, because at least extending coverage gives you some fighting chance, where whether you go to appraisal or something else, if you ever have to go to a lawsuit down the line. So yeah, just let them have control for a while. Let them go out there, because sometimes they may even pay for more than you want them to pay for. Let them do their thing. I mean, that people don't want to feel like they're being forced to do anything like that. So let them do their thing, and then be friendly, be conversational, and see where it goes. And then you can go back and forth. Now, on our end though, you better know your stuff. You better know your code. You better know your construction methods, because if you're going to call them out on something, you better know what you're saying before you start calling them out on it though.
Love it. Lastly, let's finish on this advice. I have someone in our audience who's been in business for over 10 years. He describes the original owner of Romans. So, you know, I've done few millions in the past, but last year, less than $1 million, way over a decade in business, struggling, doesn't want to advertise, got in financial debt, kind of like in defense mode, because you've gotten financial trouble before. He doesn't want to overspend to get in more in financial. He wants to pay off his debt. Would you recommend someone like that to bring a partner? Would you recommend someone like that to hire a mentor? What's your advice to someone who's been in the business for over 10 years, but still cannot break 1 million in a great market with a great jobs, great opportunities? What would you recommend a roofer like that?
So definitely start with the mentor, because you have to be open to different ideas. Now, it sounds like they say like the choke point of every organization is the leader, the number one choke point. So it sounds like this is that perfect example. He has to be open to ideas first. Mentors, I do believe, really help you grow your business. Now, I work with Ty Adams too, and him and I bounce ideas. Our way of doing business is very similar. And I had a model like this before I even met him. So it was just kind of funny how when him and I started working together, how very similar our minds were on the model. But you have to be open-minded to everything. I don't know. I mean, taking on a partner, I mean, if he's $1 million business, like, I don't know how much.
How much do you think $1 million business worth these days?
1 million in revenue?
Yeah.
I mean, probably nothing. I mean, like, you could have a $20 million business, but if you don't have the right systems and processes, and I believe the W-2 employee is important with that. If you don't have everything in place, what do you have? Like, it's not a business. It's a source of income. I mean, it's a job at that point. I mean, it has to be so dialed in that you have to have your SOPs in writing. You have to have everything where if private equity is going to come and look at your business, you got to be able to hand them a playbook and say, here's my playbook, here are my financials, have at it. And then let them question you on everything.
Love it. Lastly, give advice to the homeowner who just got a hail damage in their house, have 20 door knockers. What do they do? How do they pick a contractor?
Oh, man. I hope they pick Romans, but I mean, it seems like homeowners pick who they like. So find who you like, research the company, and if you see what they have to offer is what you like, go with them. I mean, not every I could be the best contractor in the country. That doesn't mean I'm the right contractor for every client. There's going to be clients that don't want to work with me. There's going to be clients I don't want to work with. Find someone that you like, that you want to work with, and then just vet them out and make sure that they're the contractor you want to work with. I mean, one thing that we do promote is to stay local. Like, don't let someone from Texas come in and work with you, because what's going to happen when they leave? So if you have someone local, I mean, it's kind of like the different approach. Like you have like your storm chasers and your storm catchers. I would say we're more of a storm catcher because we work with our local area. I mean, we do a lot of charitable work in our areas. We donate a lot of money to the local football teams, to whatever, like the schools, anything that like they'll come to us, they'll ask, and we're willing to at least listen and try to donate as much as we can. Try to find those companies that are embedded in your community. And like I said, I mean, it has to be someone you like, because if you don't like the guy, why are you going to work with him? Or if you don't like the girl, why are you going to work with them? I mean, it's likability and then researching their background.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, brother. Let's go eat.
Thank you.
Guys, comment below what you think about this episode, and I'll see you on the next podcast.